You're not dealing with a large criminal alien population that's present inside the United States. So this idea that by just saying we're going to take the gloves off and they're going to encounter all these huge numbers of criminal migrants out there really was never based in reality to begin with.
So a significant amount of the arrests they've made so far are not actually criminals. That was the former ICE director. The only way to satisfy Donald Trump's quota for brown people he once rounded up and kicked out is to change the targets.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. I know we are all just trying to keep up with the dizzying, brain aneurysm-inducing pace coming from President Musk and Vice President Trump as they gut crucial government agencies, lay off tens of thousands of workers. At the same time, their Republicans try and pass another round of massive tax cuts for the wealthy and gut Medicaid. But what I'm about to share with you, I believe, is a 10-alarm fire. Donald Trump, very angry that his ICE thugs are not rounding up enough brown people and deporting them quick enough, is now considering a pitch from Erik Prince of Blackwater. Look at reporter Jeremy Scahill's amazing reporting in the past about Blackwater and their army of private mercenaries that committed all sorts of war crimes in Afghanistan and elsewhere. Trump is considering a pitch from Erik Prince to provide a small army of private citizens with a bounty cash system attached to that small army to round up as many undocumented immigrants as possible and put them into processing camps on military bases. Folks, read 1984. Orwell's warnings are manifesting. Let me first read to give you a little background. Trump is not happy. Not enough brown people have been rounded up. So he has already removed his ICE chief, his acting director of ICE, who he just put in December. So he didn't even make it, 2 months. Donald Trump's presidential administration has reassigned its top official at ICE after the agency's arrests and deportations have been slower than expected, Reuters reported, citing a senior administration official. The official, Caleb Vitello, was in the role in an acting capacity and has been grappling with pressure to step up enforcement after other top ICE officials were reassigned days earlier. This firing, basically, they're saying he's being elevated, but he was actually removed as acting ICE director, comes as Trump is receiving a bunch of L's, particularly by the courts. This came yesterday. Judge blocks Trump policy allowing ICE operations in some houses of worship. There are other areas where Trump has received negative court orders blocking him and his ICE thugs from rounding up undocumented immigrants. I've reported in recent weeks that Trump's ICE thugs have been detaining and harassing Native Americans who are more American than you and I. In some cases, holding them for 7 to 8 hours without a phone. Not allowing them to make calls because apparently Trump's ICE thugs cannot differentiate between Native Americans, Hispanics, and other, minorities. But really what all this is about is Trump's campaign of a decade to get rid of all the criminals. The truth is, there's not enough criminals, undocumented immigrants in this country to round up that would satisfy the MAGA part of the MAGA base, not all. But the part of the MAGA base that just wants to get rid of the brown people. There's not enough of them. This fact was uttered this morning. This is from CNN. The former acting ICE director was on to basically reveal and expose the truth that there's really not this massive criminal undocumented immigrant epidemic in this country. It was all kind of nonsense and just part of the perennial culture war to gin up pissed off conservatives who are pissed off about a whole lot of things, but basically, need someone to blame. It's a time-tested method. Blame the other. Let's hear what he had to say about Trump's fury at the lack of quickness in deporting.
Right now, we're hearing that Donald Trump, the president, is not satisfied with the number of migrants being deported. They can't do it fast enough or big enough for him. How surprised are you that they're not able to reach the numbers that in his head are acceptable?
Well, John, at this point, I'm not that surprised, right? This is what we've been talking about previously, which is that when you target a criminal population, that is tedious work. It is slow work, and you're not dealing with a large criminal alien population that's present inside the United States. So this idea that by just saying we're going to take the gloves off and then deploy ICE assets to go after, and they're going to encounter all these, huge numbers of criminal migrants out there, really was never based in reality to begin with. During the Biden administration, ICE routinely focused and prioritized this population, so you didn't have that many targets to begin with. And then you have to deal with the resource challenges that you face at ICE, where you only have 7,000 officers, and the number of arrests they can make is really just driven by exactly that, how many officers you can deploy. Look, I expect that the administration is going to make a shift in tactics here. I think they're going to start pulling into all these state and local officers to deploy them to focus on the immigration problems. They're going to pull these other federal agencies in, but they're also going to have to reduce their targeting and expand it to where their primary target is not anyone who has some nexus to the criminal justice system, but probably just migrants who have been in this country seeking a better life, and probably have been here a long time.
So if they want to expand the numbers, they have to change the targets?
That's right. They're running. Part of the problem they're facing is they're running out of these criminal targets. What they've been doing, John, is pulling data from the criminal justice system, looking at probation and parole records, looking at people who might have been charged with a crime, in court, but were never booked into custody. But this is a tactic that ICE has been doing for the last 20 years in a population they've been focusing on. So you're not finding that many targets out there who meet that criteria. The only way to solve this is really by two things. One is expand that target range. And I think we've already, we know that they're already grabbing collateral. So when they go out there in the streets and they target that criminal, anyone else they encounter who's undocumented, they're arresting. So a significant percentage of the arrests they've made this far are not actually criminals.
So a significant amount of the arrests they've made so far are not actually criminals. That was the former ICE director, or acting ICE director. He also said, quote, "You're not dealing with a large criminal alien population present inside the United States. I don't really like that term. Anyway, he said, this was never based on reality to begin with. Sorry, MAGA. Among many other things Donald Trump conned you on. This was one of them." He, quote, "Running out of these criminal targets. The only way to satisfy Donald Trump's quota for brown people he once rounded up and kicked out is to change the targets." Well, let's tell you a little bit more about what right now is being considered in terms of changing those targets. Donald Trump is weighing a plan that was apparently presented to him before he was inaugurated again. One of the people pitching him is Erik Prince of Blackwater. This is from Politico. Credit to them for getting that. Trump allies circulate mass deportation plan calling for processing camps and a private citizen army. The group, led by Blackwater veteran Erik Prince, has close Trump ties. A group of prominent military contractors, including former Blackwater CEO Erik Prince, has pitched the Trump White House on a proposal to carry out mass deportations through a network of, quote, processing camps. I'll just call that a concentration camp on military bases, a private fleet of 100 planes, and a, quote, small army of private citizens empowered to make arrests. Boy, that's a way of creating jobs in America, right? Let's just create a private army to round up brown people. The blueprint laid out in a 26-page document Donald Trump's advisors received before the inauguration carries an estimated price tag of $25 billion and recommends a range of aggressive tactics to rapidly deport 12 million people before the 2026 midterms, including some that would likely face legal and operational challenges, according to a copy Politico obtained. The group, which includes some former immigration officials, is led by Prince, who has close ties to Trump, and Bill Matthews, the former chief operating officer of Blackwater, the military contractor known for its role in providing security, training, and logistical support to U.S. forces in Iraq and Afghanistan during the war on terror. Oh, wonderful. That's who we want. The guy who was part of the war racket in Iraq and Afghanistan and created logistical support for U.S. forces, by the way. All that logistical support, particularly in Afghanistan, The Washington Post years ago, credit to them, got documents exposing that the generals were being told spend $300 million per day in the Afghanistan war. Doesn't matter on what. You are to spend $300 million per day. That sounds like a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. What about you? Trillions of dollars spent in that Afghanistan war. Who the hell knows on what? You don't hear President Musk and Vice President Trump saying, maybe we should inspect the Pentagon for major waste, fraud, and abuse. And I don't want to hear it, MAGA. Oh, you're going to say, oh, they are saying they're going to go after the Pentagon. Please, they are not going to lay a real glove on the Pentagon. So that's what generals were told during the Afghanistan war, to spend $300 million a day. The emergence of the proposal marked, quote, unsolicited is indicative of the major hurdles the administration faces as it struggles to find the resources to fulfill Trump's ambitious deportation agenda. And ambitious is one adjective. The administration's desire to make good on that signature campaign promise has created an opening for private contractors who see a rare area in which the Trump administration is likely to increase spending. So let me get into some really alarming nitty-gritty about this. Deporting 12 million people in 2 years, quote, would require the government to eject nearly 500,000 illegal aliens per month, the document says. To keep pace with the Trump deportations, it would require a 600% increase in activity. It is unlikely that the government could swell its internal ranks to keep pace with this demand. In order to process this enormous number of deportations, the government should enlist outside assistance. Well, if you want to know about that outside assistance, the group proposes forming a skip tracing team to use existing records to locate deportees while sponsoring a, quote, bounty program, which provides a cash reward for each illegal alien held by a state or local law enforcement officer. That, too, could present potential legal hurdles because local officers in many cities and states do not have agreements to act as immigration officers. A bounty program with cash rewards for each illegal alien held. You know, remember that bounty program that was proposed down in Texas for private citizens to basically, you know, be the police reporting folks who were helping or, you know, accomplices to abortion? Go ask the folks in Texas how that worked out. Now we're going to have a bounty system with private cash rewards for rounding up brown people to send them to processing camps. Yeah, that's quite democratic. The proposal notes that it is unlikely that the government could apprehend all of the 12 million illegal aliens without outside assistance and suggests deputizing 10,000 private citizens, including military veterans, former law enforcement officials, and retired ICE and CBP officers, giving them expedited training and the same federal law enforcement powers of immigration officials. The document says after the border deputies are trained, they will be under Homan's command. Quote, I don't see how you could do private sector deputized law enforcement officers. That's subject to an immediate injunction by a court. The proposal also details how the contractors would detain and repatriate people, noting that they currently have access to 49 planes ready to deploy. They also suggest a list of U.S. Army installations as the best place to build, quote, temporary camps they could stand up in less than 1 week. Since the proposal was submitted, the Trump administration has developed plans to use military sites for detaining undocumented immigrants across the country, though there's no evidence this idea emerged from discussions with Prince's group. I don't even know what to say. You could, you know, there are liberal folks, progressive folks who do want, you know, restrictions at the border within reason, want, you know, an orderly process for people to enter the country legally, while not wanting to demonize and deport undocumented immigrants who have been here for years and, you know, paid into the system, through no fault of their own. Many, the Dreamers were brought here in many cases by their parents. So not all people who want, tougher border control are racist or xenophobic or bigoted. There's a lot of them that are, because again, it is a time true and tested method, not just in America, but autocrats and wannabe fascists and full-on fascists across history, to tap into the distressed masses, the economically frustrated, get them to blame somebody, blame the other. But we're talking about in America, even considering a private army of mercenary thugs enlisting private citizens. The proposal points out retired ICE and border officials, but seems to me, based on the past programs the Republican Party has enlisted, that could widen out to a whole lot of private citizens that are not even former ICE or law enforcement officials. That could, private security officials, just guys with jacked up biceps from the gym. This is alarming, absolutely alarming. And there's really no opposition party to this. I mean, you got the Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, might as well be taking a nice nap in Tahiti in a hammock. I mean, he is completely useless. Chuck Schumer is completely useless. Even Rachel Maddow, of all people, tried to get a little fight out of Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic minority leader, last night, and she got essentially this futile answer to, hey, what are you going to do about this whole theft of democracy?
Does people showing up and doing direct action, peaceful, nonviolent direct action, to try to put steel in your spine, among others, does it help, or is it more of a hindrance to you?
Well, listen, public sentiment is everything, as Abraham Lincoln once said. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. I don't think anyone needs additional steel put in their spine. Let's be clear about that. And I think, the House Democrats under the leadership of Nancy Pelosi during the prior Trump administration, continuing to where we are at this moment, are going to continue to push back forcefully, using every tool available. Now, I think it does help, for instance, that our House Republican colleagues are held accountable.
Did I miss the forceful pushback? Could somebody point me to that? The only pushback I've seen is 83-year-old Bernie Sanders going around the country in a fight oligarchy tour. He has brought out thousands of people this last weekend against President Musk and Vice President Trump's assault on agencies. There's literally reports that they're considering processing concentration camps, enlisting Erik Prince of Blackwater. Oh, by the way, Musk reportedly today just got another government contract, this time for his vanity space shuttle business. An FAA contract. This is all beyond the pale. Honestly, I'm not a politician. If I was in the opposition party, I wouldn't be showing up for votes. I'd be shutting the government down over this illegal gutting of agencies. Frankly, I think Doge is illegal to begin with, over the blatant conflicts of interest Elon Musk has to even have any access to these agencies, over the detainment and harassment of Native Americans by ICE. There's so many things you could say. We are not normalizing this. And I am not a Democratic Party cheerleader, by the way, because I don't really think we even have a functioning democracy before Trump. I think that's part of the reason so many people are pissed off and so disenchanted and so cynical that they elected Trump twice, because there is no opposition to fascism in this country. No elected opposition, really. But people need to be aware of this, because it is not outside the realm of possibility. We already saw the child separation and those awful images in the first Trump term. It is not such a, dramatic or inconceivable concept that Trump could do this. And people need to speak up about it now, because he's already fired his ICE director because he wasn't rounding up and deporting enough brown people quick enough for King Trump's liking. And it is totally conceivable that he will enlist Erik Prince to do this evil, immoral fascist act.